Katie Martinez pulled her thin jacket tight around her shoulders as she stepped out of Mel's diner into the freezing December night. Snow was falling hard, making the sidewalk slippery under her worn sneakers. Her feet hurt from standing for 12 hours straight, and her back ached from carrying heavy plates and coffee pots all day. She had worked 2 shifts back to back again. The extra money would help pay for her brother's medicine and maybe cover part of her college textbooks for next semester. Katie was 23 years old and tired, but she never complained. Life was hard, but complaining never made it easier. The cold air hit her face like tiny needles. Her breath came out in white puffs as she walked toward the bus stop. The streetlights made yellow circles in the falling snow, and most of the shops on the street were already closed. It was almost 11 at night, and downtown Denver was quiet except for the sound of wind and the distant hum of traffic. Katie was almost at the corner when she heard a soft whimper coming from behind the diner. She stopped and listened. There it was again, a sad sound that made her heart squeeze tight in her chest. She turned around and walked back toward the alley behind Mel's diner. Near the big green dumpster, she saw something that made her gasp. An old golden retriever was curled up against the brick wall, shivering in the snow. The dog's fur was matted and dirty, and she could see his ribs through his thin coat. His eyes were cloudy with age, and when he looked up at her, she saw pain and fear mixed with a tiny bit of hope. "Oh, you poor baby," Katie whispered, kneeling down in the snow. She didn't care that the cold wetness soaked through her uniform, pants. The dog tried to wag his tail, but he was too weak and cold to move much. Katie looked around the empty alley. Someone had left this old dog here to die in the cold. The thought made her angry, but anger wouldn't help the dog now. She had to act fast. The temperature was dropping, and the dog wouldn't survive much longer in this weather. She stood up and ran back into the diner. The cook, Pete, was cleaning the grill and getting ready to close up. "Pete, I need some warm water in a cup, please." "It's an emergency," Katie said, slightly out of breath. Pete looked at her with raised eyebrows but didn't ask questions. He filled a large paper cup with warm water from the coffee machine and handed it to her. "Everything okay, Katie? There's a dog outside." "He's in bad shape," she said, already heading back toward the door. Katie hurried back to the alley. The old dog was still there, barely moving. She knelt down again and held the cup close to his nose. "Here, boy. Drink some water. It'll make you feel better." The dog lifted his head slowly and began to lap at the warm water. His tail moved just a little bit, like he was trying to say thank you. Katie held the cup steady while he drank, and she could feel some of the tension leave his thin body as the warm liquid went down his throat. But the dog was still shivering terribly. Katie looked at her own thin jacket and knew it wouldn't be enough to keep him warm. Then she remembered the scarf her brother had given her for her birthday last month. It was her favorite scarf, soft and blue like her brother's eyes. But this dog needed it more than she did. She unwrapped the scarf from around her neck and gently wrapped it around the old dog's body. He was so thin that the scarf went around him twice. She tucked the ends under him to keep the scarf in place. "There. You go, sweetie. That should help a little," she said softly, stroking his head with gentle fingers. The dog looked up at her with grateful eyes. For a moment, Katie forgot about the cold and her tired feet and her empty wallet. All that mattered was this old dog who needed help. She pulled out her phone and searched for the number of the Denver Animal Shelter. Her fingers were getting numb from the cold, but she managed to dial the number. A woman answered after 3 rings. "Denver Animal Shelter. This is Lisa speaking." "Hi, my name is Katie Martinez. I found an elderly dog in an alley downtown. He's in really bad shape and needs help right away. Can someone come pick him up?" "I'm sorry, but we're closed for the night. Can you bring the dog in tomorrow morning?" Katie looked down at the shivering dog. "He won't make it until morning. Please, isn't there someone who can come now?" There was a pause on the other end of the line. "Where exactly are you located?" Katie gave the address of the diner and described exactly where she was in the alley. Lisa told her that she would call Dr. Smith, the emergency veterinarian who sometimes helped the shelter after hours. While Katie waited, She sat down in the snow next to the dog and continued to pet him gently. She talked to him in a soft voice, telling him that help was coming and that everything would be okay. She didn't know if he understood her words, but he seemed calmer when she talked. Across the street, a black Tesla sat parked under a street light. Inside the car, a man with dark hair was finishing an important phone call about rocket engines and space missions. Elon Musk had stopped here to take the call because the reception was better on this corner than at his hotel. As he talked about fuel efficiency and orbital mechanics, his eyes wandered to the alley across the street. The car's advanced camera system automatically focused on the movement it detected. On the dashboard screen, Musk could see a young woman kneeling in the snow next to what looked like a dog. He ended his phone call and watched more closely. The car's artificial intelligence system began analyzing what it saw. The woman had taken off her own scarf and wrapped it around the animal. She was holding a cup of water for the dog to drink. The AI calculated the temperature outside and cross-referenced it with the woman's behavior patterns. Musk leaned forward, fascinated. The AI system highlighted several data points on the screen: the woman's willingness to kneel in freezing snow, her sacrifice of personal comfort items, her immediate problem-solving response to the situation. The computer assigned probability scores to various human behaviors, and this woman's actions were statistically extraordinary. 20 minutes later, Dr. Smith arrived in his van. Katie helped him carefully lift the old dog and get him into the warm vehicle. As the van drove away with its precious cargo, Katie stood alone in the alley, cold and tired but smiling. She had missed her bus, and the next one wouldn't come for an hour. But as she walked toward the bus stop, she felt warm inside despite the freezing night. Sometimes doing the right thing was its own reward. Across the street, Elon Musk started his car and drove slowly away, his mind already working on a plan that would change Katie's life forever. Elon Musk sat in his Tesla for several minutes after Katie had left with the veterinarian. The car's computer screen still showed the data it had collected about her behavior. Numbers and graphs filled the display, but Musk was more interested in what those numbers meant. The artificial intelligence system in his car was connected to his neural link prototype, a device he had been testing secretly for months. The AI spoke to him through the tiny chip in his brain, its voice clear and calm. The subject displayed remarkable empathy levels, the AI said. Her stress responses indicated genuine concern for the animal's welfare, not social performance behavior. Musk nodded slowly. He had seen many people do kind things when they knew others were watching. But Katie had no idea anyone was looking. She had acted purely from her heart. "What else did you notice?" Musk asked the AI silently, using his thoughts instead of words. Her problem-solving approach was highly efficient. She identified the immediate need for warmth and hydration, acted quickly to provide both, then sought professional help. Total response time was optimal given available resources. Musk drummed his fingers on the steering wheel. In his years of running companies and working with thousands of people, he had learned to spot special individuals. There was something about this waitress that reminded him of his best engineers and scientists. She saw a problem and fixed it without wasting time on fear or hesitation. "Run a background check," he instructed the AI. "I want to know everything about Katie Martinez." The next morning, Musk reviewed the report while drinking coffee in his hotel room. Katie Martinez was 23 years old and lived in a small apartment with her 19-year-old brother Danny. Danny had been born with a genetic condition that required expensive medicine and regular doctor visits. Their parents had died in a car accident when Katie was 18, leaving her to take care of Danny alone. Katie worked 3 jobs to pay for everything. Besides her shifts at Mel's Diner, she cleaned offices at night and helped at a local animal shelter on weekends. Despite working almost every day, she was also a student at Denver Community College, studying to become a veterinary technician. Her grades were excellent. Her professors described her as creative and hardworking. She had a talent for finding new ways to solve old problems. When the animal shelter couldn't afford new equipment, Katie had figured out how to fix the broken X-ray machine using parts from old computers. When Danny's medicine became too expensive, she had researched and found a program that provided it for free. But what impressed Musk most was a note from her supervisor at the animal shelter. It said that Katie had a special gift with frightened and injured animals. She could calm them when no one else could. Dogs that bit other people would let Katie examine them. Cats that hid from everyone else would come to her willingly. Fascinating, Musk murmured. The AI had been right. Katie's empathy levels were extraordinary, but she also had the practical intelligence to turn that empathy into effective action. Musk called his head of security, a former FBI agent named Rick Parker. "I need you to research someone for me," Musk said, "but I want it done very carefully. No direct contact, no obvious questions, just observe and report." "Who's the target?" Rick asked. "Katie Martinez. She's a waitress in Denver. I want to know how she handles difficult situations. Set up some tests, but make them look natural. I want to see how she thinks when she's under pressure." Rick had worked for Musk long enough to know that his boss had unusual ideas, but this request was strange even for him. "What kind of tests?" "Nothing harmful," Musk said quickly. "Just situations where she has to solve problems or help people. I want to see if last night was typical behavior or just a lucky coincidence." Over the next 2 weeks, Rick and his team created several scenarios. They were careful to make everything look like normal life, not like tests. The first test came when Katie was walking to work. A woman with a baby stroller was struggling to get up a flight of stairs outside the subway station. The woman was actually one of Rick's agents, and she had been instructed to look helpless but not to ask directly for help. Katie saw the woman and immediately went over to help. She didn't just grab one end of the stroller. Instead, she looked at the situation carefully and realized the woman was carrying too many bags along with managing the baby. Katie took some of the bags, then helped guide the stroller up the stairs one step at a time, talking to the baby the whole time to keep him calm. She evaluated the whole situation, not just the obvious problem, Rick reported to Musk. Most people would have just grabbed the stroller and pulled. She saw that the real issue was that the woman was overwhelmed. The second test was more complicated. Rick's team arranged for Katie's bus to break down on her way to work. Another passenger, also one of Rick's agents, started complaining loudly that he would be late for an important job interview. Several other passengers began arguing about whose schedule was more important. Katie listened for a minute, then stood up and spoke calmly to everyone. She had noticed a coffee shop with Wi-Fi across the street. She suggested that the man with the job interview could call his potential employer and explain the situation, maybe even do a video interview from the coffee shop. She offered to help him practice his answers while they waited. For the other passengers, she organized a group to call different taxi companies and ride-sharing services to see who could get there fastest and cheapest. Within 20 minutes, everyone had a solution to their problem. She turned a group of angry strangers into a team, Rick told Musk. And she did it without taking charge in an obvious way. She just started solving problems and everyone followed her lead. The third test was the most important one. Rick arranged for Katie to witness a minor car accident near the diner. Both drivers got out of their cars and started yelling at each other. Traffic was backing up and other drivers were honking their horns angrily. Katie was on her break and could have just stayed inside the diner. Instead, she walked over to the accident scene. She didn't try to determine who was at fault or take sides in the argument. She noticed that one of the drivers seemed shaky and pale, and she recognized the signs of shock. She helped the shaky driver sit down on the curb and gave him a bottle of water from the diner. Then she asked the other driver to help her direct traffic around the accident while they waited for the police. By the time the officers arrived, both drivers had calmed down and were actually talking politely to each other. "She has an instinct for de-escalation," Rick reported. "She doesn't try to control situations, she just makes them better." Musk reviewed all of Rick's reports while flying back to California. The AI and his neural link processed the information and reached the same conclusion that Musk had already formed. "This individual represents a statistical anomaly," the AI said. "Her combination of empathy, intelligence, and leadership potential occurs in less than 1% of the human population." Musk smiled as he looked out the airplane window at the clouds below. He had been searching for someone like Katie for years. Someone who could think creatively under pressure, who cared more about solving problems than getting credit, who could lead without dominating. He had big plans for humanity's future, plans that would require someone with exactly Katie's talents. But first, he needed to help her reach her full potential, and he had some ideas about how to do that. Initiate Phase 2, he told the AI. It was time to start changing Katie's life, though she would never know he was involved. 2 weeks after the tests, Katie found an envelope slipped under her apartment door. Inside was a letter from the Denver Education Foundation, a charity she had never heard of. The letter said she had been chosen to receive a full scholarship to finish her veterinary technician program at Denver Community College. Katie stared at the letter for a long time. She read it 3 times to make sure she understood correctly. The scholarship would pay for all her classes, her textbooks, and even give her money for living expenses while she studied. "Danny, look at this," she called to her brother, who was doing homework at their small kitchen table. Danny rolled his wheelchair over to see the letter. His eyes grew wide as he read. "Katie, this is amazing. You can quit one of your jobs and focus on school." Katie felt tears in her eyes. For 5 years, she had been working and studying and taking care of Danny with barely any time to sleep. This scholarship would change everything. But something felt strange about it. "I don't remember applying for this scholarship," she said, slowly. Danny shrugged. "Maybe one of your professors recommended you. You're the smartest person I know, Katie. You deserve this." Katie wanted to believe that was true. She called the number on the letter, and a pleasant woman confirmed that the scholarship was real. When Katie asked how she had been selected, the woman said her name had come from several sources who had noticed her academic excellence and community service. 3 days later, Katie gave her notice at the office cleaning job. For the first time in years, she would have evenings free to study and spend time with Danny. But Musk's plan was just beginning. Over the next several months, strange coincidences started happening in Katie's life. Each one seemed normal by itself, but together they created opportunities for Katie to show her special talents. The first coincidence happened at her apartment building. Katie and Danny lived in Sunset Towers, a rundown building owned by a company called Metro Properties. The building had 40 families, mostly people who worked low-paying jobs and couldn't afford to live anywhere nicer. One morning, all the tenants found notices taped to their doors. Metro Properties was raising the rent by $300 a month. The notice said anyone who couldn't pay the new rent had 30 days to move out. Katie's neighbors were upset and scared. Mrs. Chen from apartment 2B was crying because she was 70 years old and had nowhere else to go. The Rodriguez family in 3A had 4 children and couldn't afford to move. Many of the tenants worked 2 or 3 jobs just to pay the current rent. "This isn't fair," Katie told Danny that evening. "They can't just force everyone out like this." "What can we do about it?" Danny asked. "We're just tenants." Katie spent that night researching tenant rights on her laptop. She learned that Colorado had laws protecting renters from unfair rent increases. She discovered that Metro Properties had violated several of these laws by not giving proper notice and not making required building improvements. The next evening, Katie knocked on every door in the building. She invited all the tenants to meet in the lobby the following night. Only about half of them came, but it was a start. "I know this rent increase seems impossible to fight," Katie told the group, "but I've been reading about our legal rights. Metro Properties has broken several laws and we might be able to stop this." Mrs. Chen raised her hand. "But lawyers cost money. None of us can afford a lawyer." Katie had thought about this too. "There's a legal aid clinic downtown that helps people for free. I called them today and they're willing to help us if we can show that we're organized and serious." Over the next 2 weeks, Katie helped the tenants form a group called the Sunset Towers Residents Association. She taught herself about housing law and helped her neighbors document all the problems in the building that Metro Properties had refused to fix. The broken elevators, the leaky pipes, the heating system that didn't work properly in winter. What Katie didn't know was that Rick Parker was watching everything from a van across the street. Metro Properties was actually a shell company owned by one of Musk's business associates. The rent increase had been Musk's idea, designed to see how Katie would respond to an injustice that affected not just her, but her entire community. Katie, organized the tenants like a general planning a campaign. She assigned different people to research different aspects of their case. She created schedules for documenting building violations and collecting evidence. She even organized a phone tree so everyone could stay in touch about important developments. The legal aid lawyer, Jennifer Stone, was impressed by how well prepared the tenants were when they came to her office. "I've never seen a group this organized," she told Katie. "You've done most of my work for me." The case against Metro Properties was strong. The company had violated notice requirements, failed to maintain the building properly, and raised rents beyond legal limits. But the company's lawyers fought back hard, trying to intimidate the tenants into giving up. Katie refused to be intimidated. When Metro Properties offered each tenant $500 to move out quietly, Katie convinced them to reject the offer. When the company's lawyers tried to schedule court hearings during work hours so the tenants couldn't attend, Katie organized shifts so someone could always be present. The breakthrough came when Katie discovered that Metro Properties had been receiving tax breaks from the city for providing affordable housing. If they forced out low-income tenants, they would have to pay back thousands of dollars in tax benefits. Jennifer Stone used this information to pressure Metro Properties into a settlement. The company agreed to cancel the rent increase, fix all the building violations, and pay for the tenants' legal costs. But Katie wasn't finished. She realized that other buildings in the neighborhood probably had similar problems. She helped Mrs. Chen and the Rodriguez family start a larger organization called the Downtown Tenants Union. Within 6 months, they had helped tenants in 12 different buildings fight unfair rent increases and unsafe conditions. The local newspaper wrote an article about Katie and the Tenants Union. The headline read, "Community College Student Becomes Champion for Renters' Rights." Katie was embarrassed by the attention, but Danny was proud of his sister. "You saved our home," he told her. "And you helped all these other families too." Katie just shrugged. "I couldn't let them push around people who couldn't fight back. It wasn't right." What Katie didn't know was that Musk had been following every detail of her campaign. Rick Parker's reports described how she had turned a group of scared, disorganized tenants into an effective team. She had learned complex legal concepts quickly, developed strategic plans, and inspired people to believe they could win against a powerful company. Most importantly, she had seen the big picture. Instead of just solving her own problem, she had created a system to help other people facing similar challenges. She had built something that would continue helping people long after her own crisis was over. "She's ready for the next phase," Musk told his AI as he reviewed Rick's final report. The neural link processed the information and agreed. "Her leadership abilities have exceeded our projections," the AI confirmed. "She demonstrates the rare combination of tactical intelligence and strategic vision that your long-term plans require." Musk smiled. Katie Martinez had passed every test he had given her. Now it was time to prepare her for the real challenge that was coming. A challenge that would determine not just her future, but the future of all humanity. 5 years had passed since that cold December night when Katie found the old dog behind the diner. She was now Dr. Katie Martinez, having earned her doctorate in xenobiology from Colorado State University. The scholarship that had started her journey had mysteriously expanded to cover all her education, including graduate school. Katie now worked at the Denver Museum of Natural Science, where she studied how different species might communicate with each other. It was strange work that most people didn't understand, but Katie loved it. She spent her days thinking about how creatures from different worlds might try to talk to each other. Danny was doing well too. He had graduated from high school and was studying computer programming at the community college. His medicine was now covered by a special research program that had accepted him 3 years earlier. Katie had never understood how they qualified for so many lucky breaks, but she was grateful. On a Tuesday morning in October, Katie was looking at data from radio telescopes when her phone rang. The caller ID showed a number she didn't recognize. "Dr. Martinez, this is Linda Walsh from SpaceX. Mr. Musk would like to meet with you today if possible. He's in Denver for a few hours." Katie almost dropped her phone. Everyone knew who Elon Musk was. He was the man who built rockets and electric cars and tried to put computer chips in people's brains. But why would he want to meet with her? I think you have the wrong person, Katie said. I'm just a researcher at a museum. No mistake, Linda said. Mr. Musk specifically asked for you. He'll explain everything when you meet. Can you come to the downtown Marriott at 2 o'clock? Katie agreed, though she couldn't imagine what this was about. She told her boss she had a family emergency and left work early. All the way to the hotel, she wondered what Elon Musk could possibly want with her. Musk was waiting in a private conference room on the 20th floor. He looked older than in his pictures, with more gray in his hair and tired lines around his eyes, but his handshake was firm and his smile seemed genuine. Dr. Martinez, thank you for coming. Please sit down. We have a lot to talk about. Katie sat across from him at a small table. Through the window, she could see the Rocky Mountains in the distance. Mr. Musk, I have to ask, why did you want to meet me? I don't understand what this is about. Musk was quiet for a moment, looking at her carefully. Do you remember a night 5 years ago when you helped an old dog behind Mel's diner? Katie's eyes widened. How do you know about that? Because I was watching, Musk said simply. I was parked across the street finishing a phone call. I saw everything you did for that dog. Katie felt confused and a little scared. You were watching me. Why? Musk leaned forward. Katie, what I'm about to tell you will sound impossible, but I need you to listen to everything before you decide I'm crazy. He told her about the neural link in his brain and the artificial intelligence that had analyzed her behavior that night. He explained how the AI had identified her as someone with extraordinary empathy and problem-solving abilities. He admitted that he had been secretly testing her for 5 years. The scholarship, Katie said slowly. The apartment building crisis. Danny's medicine program. That was all you? Yes, Musk said. I'm sorry for the deception, but I had to know if that night was typical of who you are, or just a one-time thing. I needed to see how you handle pressure and whether you could lead people. Katie felt angry and confused. You manipulated my life for 5 years? You put my neighbors through hell just to test me? The apartment building situation would have happened anyway, Musk said. I just made sure it happened when I could observe your response, and everyone benefited in the end. Your tenants' union has helped hundreds of families. But why? Katie demanded. What do you want from me? Musk stood up and walked to the window. When he turned back to her, his expression was grave. Katie, 3 days ago, our deep space monitoring stations detected something that changes everything. There are alien ships at the edge of our solar system. Katie stared at him. That's impossible. I thought so too. But the evidence is clear. There are 12 large ships, each about the size of a small city. They're not moving toward Earth, but they're not leaving either. They're just waiting. Musk pressed a button on a remote control and a large screen descended from the ceiling. Images appeared showing what looked like sleek silver ships floating in the darkness of space. We've been trying to communicate with them for 72 hours, Musk continued. Yesterday, they finally responded. The message was simple. They want to meet with representatives of Earth to discuss humanity's future. Katie felt dizzy. Aliens. Real aliens. Yes. And Katie, they've been watching us for a long time. They know about our wars, our pollution, our violence. They're not sure if humanity deserves to be part of the larger galactic community. Musk sat back down across from her. The aliens call themselves the Zephyrians. They communicate through a kind of shared consciousness that our scientists are still trying to understand. They've agreed to meet with a small group of humans, but they want to choose who those humans are. What does this have to do with me? Katie asked, though she was starting to have a terrible suspicion. The Zephyrians have been studying human behavior through our internet, our movies, our news broadcasts. They've identified certain qualities they want to see in the humans they meet with. Empathy, problem-solving ability, the capacity to think beyond self-interest. Musk's neural link activated, and his eyes briefly glowed with a faint blue light. My AI has been analyzing human behavior patterns for years, looking for individuals who match what the Zephyrians want. Your name came up at the top of every list. Katie shook her head. This is insane. I'm not qualified to represent humanity to aliens. I'm just a museum researcher. You're not just anything, Musk said firmly. You're someone who stops to help. A dying dog in a snowstorm. You're someone who organizes her neighbors to fight injustice. You're someone who sees problems and fixes them, even when it costs you personally. He leaned forward again. Katie, the Zephyrians have given us 1 week to choose our representatives. After that, they'll make their own decision about humanity's future. If they decide we're too dangerous or selfish to join the galactic community, they'll establish what they call a protective quarantine around our solar system. What does that mean? It means humanity will be trapped on Earth forever. No space, travel beyond our own moon, no contact with other intelligent species, no access to the knowledge and technology that could solve our problems with climate change, disease, poverty. Katie felt the weight of what he was saying. And you think I should be one of the people who meets with them? I think you're the most important person who meets with them, Musk said. Everything I've built, SpaceX, Tesla, Neuralink, it was all preparation for this moment. I've been trying to advance human technology fast enough to be ready when we made contact with aliens. He stood up again and began pacing. But technology isn't enough. The Zephyrians don't care about our rockets or our computers. They care about who we are as a species. They want to know if we're capable of growth, of putting the welfare of others before our own desires. Katie thought about the old dog, shivering, in the snow. She thought about Mrs. Chen and the Rodriguez family, afraid of losing their home. She thought about all the times in her life when she had seen someone suffering and couldn't walk away. When do I have to decide? She asked. Musk stopped pacing and looked at her. The Zephyrian ship will arrive in Earth orbit in 4 days. We need to have our team ready by then. Katie closed her eyes and took a deep breath. When she opened them, Musk was watching her with an expression of hope and fear. If I do this, Katie said slowly, if I agree to represent humanity to these aliens, what happens to Danny? What happens to my life here? Danny will be taken care of, I promise you that. As for your life here, if we succeed, you'll be helping to create a better future for everyone on Earth. If we fail... Musk didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. Katie understood that the stakes were bigger than anything she had ever imagined. She thought about that cold night 5 years ago, when she had made a simple choice to help a creature that couldn't help itself. Now she was being asked to make another choice, one that could affect the future of her entire species. Okay, Katie said quietly. I'll do it. The next 3 days passed like a dream. Katie found herself at a secret SpaceX facility in Colorado, where teams of scientists and engineers worked around the clock to prepare for humanity's first diplomatic mission to aliens. Dr. Sarah Kim, Musk's head of neural technology, explained how the communication system would work. The Zephyrians don't use words like we do, she said, showing Katie a device that looked like a thin silver headband. They share thoughts and emotions directly through their minds. This neural interface will let you do the same thing. Katie held the device carefully. It was lighter than it looked, but she could feel a slight vibration when she touched it. Is it safe? We've tested it extensively, Dr. Kim assured her. Mr. Musk has been using a more advanced version for years. This one is designed specifically for communication with the Zephyrian consciousness. The other 2 humans chosen for the mission were Dr. Robert Chen, a philosopher who specialized in ethics, and Captain Maria Santos, a former astronaut who now worked for SpaceX. Both of them seemed much more qualified than Katie, which made her feel nervous. Why am I here? Katie asked Musk during one of their preparation sessions. Dr. Chen understands morality better than I do, and Captain Santos knows about space travel. What do I bring to this team? Musk looked at her seriously. You bring something that can't be taught or learned. You bring genuine compassion that shows itself in action. The Zephyrians have been studying our species for decades. They've seen our wars, our cruelty, our selfishness, but they've also seen moments of pure kindness, and they want to understand where that kindness comes from. On the 4th day, Katie said goodbye to Danny. He was staying at their apartment, but Musk had assigned bodyguards to protect him while Katie was gone. Danny tried to act brave, but Katie could see he was scared. What if something goes wrong? Up there? Danny asked as they hugged. Then I'll figure out a way to fix it, Katie said, trying to sound more confident than she felt. That's what we do, right? We solve problems. Danny smiled, but his eyes were wet with tears. Just remember that story you used to tell me when I was little, about how even the smallest person can make a difference. Katie remembered. When Danny was young and scared about his disability, she used to tell him that size didn't matter when it came to courage. Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness could change the world. The spacecraft that would take them to the Zephyrian ship was unlike anything Katie had ever seen. It was sleek and silver with no visible engines or windows. Captain Santos explained that it used a new type of propulsion system that Musk had developed in secret. The flight will take about 6 hours, Santos said as they strapped themselves into seats that felt more like comfortable armchairs. The Zephyrians are waiting at a position between Earth and Mars. As they lifted off, Katie felt her stomach drop. She had never been in space before, and the feeling of leaving Earth behind was both terrifying and amazing. Through a small viewport, she watched the planet get smaller and smaller until it looked like a blue marble floating in darkness. Dr. Chen spent the flight reading philosophy books and making notes. Captain Santos checked and rechecked their flight systems. Katie just sat quietly, thinking about what she would say to beings from another world. The Zephyrian ship appeared on their screens long before they could see it with their eyes. It was enormous, shaped like a crystal flower with dozens of petals that seemed to glow with their own light. As they got closer, Katie could see smaller ships moving around it like fish swimming around a coral reef. Incoming transmission, Captain, Santos announced. They're giving us permission to dock. The docking process was smooth and silent. One moment they were floating in space and the next they were inside a vast chamber filled with soft blue light. The air felt different when they opened their ship's door, cleaner and somehow more alive. 3 Zephyrians were waiting for them. They looked somewhat like humans but taller and thinner, with pale skin that seemed to shimmer slightly. Their eyes were larger than human eyes and a deep purple color. They wore simple robes that moved as if they were made of liquid light. The lead Zephyrian stepped forward and spoke, but not with words. Instead, Katie heard a voice inside her mind, gentle but powerful. Welcome, humans. I am Keeper Vale, speaker for the Zephyrian Council. We have been waiting to meet you. Dr. Kim had prepared them for this kind of communication, but it still felt strange to Katie. She put on her neural interface headband and felt a slight tingling sensation as it connected to her thoughts. Thank you for allowing us to come here, Katie thought back, hoping the device was working correctly. You are Dr. Martinez, Keeper Vale said, and Katie sensed approval in the mental voice. We have observed your actions for some time. You interest us. They were led through corridors that seemed to be made of living crystal. The walls glowed softly, and Katie could hear something like music in the background, though she wasn't sure if it was sound or just thoughts. The meeting chamber was a large dome with no furniture, just a smooth floor that felt warm under their feet. The 3 humans sat in a circle with 5 Zephyrians, including Keeper Vale. We must discuss your species, Keeper Vale began, and suddenly Katie's mind was flooded with images. She saw wars throughout human history, cities burning, forests being cut down, animals going extinct. She saw cruelty and hatred and violence. But then the images changed. She saw humans helping each other during disasters, doctors working to save lives, teachers caring for children, ordinary people making sacrifices for strangers. She saw acts of kindness both large and small. Your species confuses us, another Zephyrian said. You are capable of great cruelty but also great compassion. We have watched many worlds, but few show such extremes. Dr. Chen tried to explain human nature using philosophical concepts, talking about free will and moral development. Captain Santos spoke about humanity's potential for growth and exploration. Both of them made good points, but Katie could sense that the Zephyrians were not entirely convinced. Finally, Keeper Vale turned to Katie. Dr. Martinez, you have been silent. What do you say about your species? Katie took a deep breath and thought about her answer carefully. Instead of using words, she decided to share her memories directly through the neural link. She showed them the night she found the old dog. She let them feel what she had felt, the immediate need to help a suffering creature despite her own tiredness and cold. She shared her memories of organizing the tenants in her building, not for personal gain but because it was wrong to let powerful people hurt those who couldn't defend themselves. She showed them Danny's courage in facing his disability, Mrs. Chen's determination to keep her home, the way ordinary people could come together to solve problems when someone gave them hope and direction. "We are not perfect," Katie finally said, both aloud and in her thoughts. "We make terrible mistakes, and we hurt each other too often. But we also have something special. We can look at suffering and choose to end it, even when it costs us something. We can see injustice and decide to fight it even when we're afraid." She paused, trying to find the right words. "You want to know if we deserve to join your galactic community? I can't answer that. But I can tell you this. We are a species that is still learning how to be good. And the fact that we keep trying even after we fail, that might be our greatest strength." The Zephyrians were quiet for a long moment. Katie could sense them communicating with each other in ways she couldn't understand. Finally, Keeper Vale spoke again. "You interest us greatly, Dr. Martinez. Your thoughts are unusual. We sense no deception in you, no hidden agenda. You truly believe in your species' capacity for growth." "I do," Katie said simply. "Then we propose a test," Keeper Vale said. "Not of your technology or your intelligence, but of your spirit. We will share with you a choice that your species must make. How you choose will determine your future among the stars." Keeper Vale gestured with one long, graceful hand, and the crystal walls around them became transparent. Outside, Katie could see Earth floating in the distance, a beautiful blue and white sphere against the black of space. "The test is simple," Keeper Vale said through the neural link. "We will give your species access to our technology, clean energy that could end pollution forever, medicine that could cure all diseases, knowledge that could feed everyone on your planet and let you travel to the stars." Katie felt a surge of hope. This was everything humanity needed to solve its biggest problems. "But," another Zephyrian continued, "there is a condition. The technology can only be given to one group of humans. One nation, one organization, one leader. That group would become the most powerful force on your planet. They would control who gets help and who does not." Katie's hope turned to dread as she understood what the Zephyrians were really testing. "You want to see if we can share power fairly. We want to see what your species values more," Keeper Vale said. "The chance to solve your problems or the chance to control the solutions." Through the neural link, Katie saw what had happened to other worlds the Zephyrians had contacted. Some species had fought wars over who would control the alien technology. Others had split into factions that spent centuries competing instead of cooperating. A few had turned the gifts into weapons and destroyed themselves. "Only 3 species in our long history have passed this test," Keeper Vale explained. "They found ways to share the gifts equally, even when it meant giving up personal advantage." Dr. Chen spoke up. "What if we can't agree? What if humanity chooses to fight over the technology instead of sharing it?" The Zephyrian's mental voice was sad but firm. "Then we will leave and establish the quarantine. Your species will remain on Earth until you learn to put cooperation above competition." Captain Santos asked, "How long do we have to decide?" "You must choose now," Keeper Vale said, "and you 3 must choose for all of humanity. We cannot wait for your entire species to debate. The choice must be made by those who understand what is at stake." Katie felt the enormous weight of the decision. How could 3 people choose for all 7 billion humans on Earth? How could they decide who would control technologies that could change everything? Dr. Chen began discussing different philosophical approaches to fair distribution. Captain Santos suggested involving the United Nations or other international organizations. Both of their ideas were thoughtful and careful. But Katie was thinking about something else. She was remembering a cold night 5 years ago when she had found an old dog suffering in an alley. She had not stopped to think about who deserved her help or whether helping would benefit her somehow. She had just seen suffering and acted to end it. "I know what we have to choose," Katie said quietly. Dr. Chen and Captain Santos looked at her. Through the neural link, she could feel the Zephyrians focusing their attention on her thoughts. "We have to say no," Katie continued. "We have to refuse the technology." "Katie, what are you talking about?" Captain Santos said. "This technology could save millions of lives." "Not if it comes with the condition that only one group can control it," Katie replied. "Don't you see? The moment we accept that condition, we've already failed the test. We've agreed that some humans are more important than others." She turned to face Keeper Vale directly. "You said that only 3 species have passed this test. How did they do it?" "They chose cooperation over power," Keeper Vale answered. "But how they did so varied." Katie nodded slowly. "Then here's our choice. Humanity refuses to accept technology that cannot be shared equally by everyone. If you can only give it to one group, then we don't want it." Dr. Chen looked shocked. "Katie, think about what you're saying. You're condemning Earth to remain isolated." "No," Katie said firmly. "I'm showing that humanity can choose what's right over what's easy. I'm proving that we understand that real strength comes from lifting everyone up, not from some people getting power over others." Through the neural link, Katie projected her memories again. She showed the Zephyrians how the tenants in her building had succeeded not because one person took control, but because everyone contributed their skills and worked together. She shared her memory of organizing the downtown tenants union, which grew strong by including everyone who needed help rather than choosing favorites. "This is who we are when we're at our best," Katie said. "We don't want to be the most powerful species in the galaxy. We want to be the kind of species that other worlds can trust. We want to earn our place among you by proving we can put the needs of others before our own desires." Captain Santos and Dr. Chen looked at each other, then back at Katie. Slowly, Dr. Chen nodded. "She's right. If we accept technology that only one group can control, we're not solving humanity's problems. We're just creating new ones." "I agree," Captain Santos said. "Our answer is no. Humanity rejects any gift that cannot be shared by all humans equally." The Zephyrians were silent for a long moment. Katie could sense intense communication happening between them, thoughts and emotions flowing back and forth too quickly for her to follow. Finally, Keeper Vale's mental voice returned, and for the first time, Katie detected something like joy in it. "Dr. Martinez, your species has surprised us once again. In our long history, you are only the 4th species to choose cooperation over power. Most civilizations fail this test because they cannot resist the temptation of advantage, even temporary advantage." Another Zephyrian stepped forward. "We apologize for the deception, but it was necessary. There was never a condition that the technology could only go to one group. We created that limitation to test your response." Katie felt relief wash over her. "So you'll share the technology with all of humanity?" "We will do more than that," Keeper Vale said. "Your species has shown us something remarkable. You chose to sacrifice potential benefits rather than accept unfairness. This tells us that humans can grow beyond their current limitations." The crystal chamber filled with warm light as more Zephyrians entered. Katie realized they were witnessing something historic. "We offer humanity full membership in the Galactic Council," Keeper Vale announced. "You will have access to the accumulated knowledge of 47 worlds, but more importantly, you will help us decide how that knowledge is shared with other developing civilizations." Dr. Chen asked, "What does that mean for Earth?" "It means humans will become teachers and guides for other species who are where you are now," Keeper Vale explained. "Your particular combination of empathy and determination makes you ideal for this role." Katie thought about what this meant. Humanity would not just receive help from advanced civilizations, they would become part of the network that helped other worlds grow and develop. 6 months later, Katie stood on the observation deck of the first human Zephyrian research station, orbiting Earth. Below her, the planet looked more beautiful than ever. The new clean energy technology had already begun reducing pollution. Medical advances were saving lives every day. Most importantly, the technology was being shared freely with every nation on Earth. Katie had been chosen as Earth's first director of interspecies relations. Her job was to help establish contact protocols for the next species that would be invited to join the galactic community. Danny was with her on the station, working as a programmer on the translation systems that would help humans communicate with dozens of different alien species. His disability had turned out to be an advantage in understanding how different kinds of minds could work together. As Katie watched Earth turn slowly below them, she thought about the old golden retriever who had started this entire journey. Dr. Smith had saved the dog that night, and he had lived for 3 more happy years before passing away peacefully. The animal shelter had named a wing after him, the Buddy Memorial Ward for elderly and abandoned animals. Katie smiled as she remembered that cold December night. She had been a tired waitress who couldn't walk past a suffering animal. Now she was helping to build bridges between worlds. But at heart, she was still the same person who believed that no one should be left behind. Her assistant's voice came over the intercom. "Dr. Martinez, we're receiving signals from a new star system. It looks like another species trying to make contact." Katie turned away from the window and headed back to work. There were more worlds to welcome, more civilizations to help grow. And somewhere out there, other beings were probably making the same choice she had made, to choose compassion over power, cooperation over control. The universe was full of opportunities to do the right thing. Katie was ready for all of them.